Hi, I'm Abigail Jackson, and this is Celiac Hacking, the channel where we talk about celiac disease and what it means to be gluten-free. Today, we're going to answer the question, what to do if no one in your family will support you being gluten-free. I help moderate a couple of support groups on Facebook, and I'd say almost half, probably more than half actually, of the posts are some form of my insert family member is not supportive of me being gluten-free, what do I do? Sometimes it's just straight up ranting because they're frustrated. Sometimes they're legitimately asking a question, how do I resolve this issue? But I find it very interesting that so many people are having this relationship issue over a lifestyle choice. Because a lot of the stuff online, if you research being gluten-free, it'll talk about how to be gluten-free and kind of the practical aspects of changing your diet. But they don't talk about the emotional stuff, and they for sure don't talk about the relational stuff. But the emotional and relational parts of this choice in doing what you need to do to be healthy is also what's affecting your health. So in health coaching and in more of the Eastern health traditions, we talk about something called primary food. So the food that you eat is actually called secondary food. Primary food is your relationships, your career, your spirituality, and your physical exercise. And if all four of those things are going well, then the actual food that you eat, now obviously we're not talking about gluten here, that's excluded, but the food that you eat is not as big of a factor in determining your health. So it all works together. So you can't be eating completely organic, grass-fed, straight out the ground fresh food and have awful relationships and hate your job and never have any time to think or never move your body. You're still going to be unhealthy even if you're eating all the proper food. If all these other things are all crazy and terrible, then you're going to be sick and you're going to be unhappy. So my job as a celiac coach is not only to help people actually change and be gluten-free and make that as easy as possible, but I also am in charge of helping them mend these relationships with their families as well. So sometimes it is possible to talk to your family members, to listen to them, to hear what they have to say. Most of the time they're being difficult because they're also worried and frustrated and scared, especially if you were diagnosed with celiac disease, you didn't have any idea what that meant. It wasn't something that you chose for yourself. All of a sudden you have to be gluten-free. It feels like this choice is being forced on you, that it wasn't your choice. And so not only are then you feeling upset and frustrated because you're now having to do something that you don't understand and you don't want to, but your family members are picking up on that. They also feel that this choice is being forced on them and that they don't have a choice either. And if they're your family, they should care about you. Sometimes people don't care when they should, but as a general rule, I'm going to assume that your family members care about you, but the problem is that they're sensing all of this angst and unhappiness in you, and so then they feel angsty and unhappy and act out. So if it is just them acting out and being difficult because they don't know how to deal with it, I have made some other videos on how to talk to your family and open that conversation and hopefully repair those relationships and get them to support you so that you can count on them when you need to. But sometimes they're just not going to work with you. And it boggles my mind when people act this way, but people are people, and so sometimes people will act this way. So we need to address what happens if they won't support you. If you try to talk to them, you can't work it out, they're just being buttheads. So the most extreme example that I have heard so far, one of the people that I was talking to, her daughter, I think, is celiac, or her daughter is gluten-free for sure. And whenever the daughter goes over to her ex's house, he feeds her whatever. And so the daughter always gets gluten. She always has rashes. She's always sick when she comes back to her mom's house. And her mom was telling me how frustrating it was because the ex knew that the daughter needed to be gluten-free, but he just wasn't stepping up. Either he didn't care, he didn't understand what needed to happen, or he was just outright being belligerent. Some people still don't believe that celiac disease is a thing. They still think that gluten-free is a fad. And there are people, again, it boggles my mind, but there are people who will intentionally sneak what you say you can't have into your food to see if you really react to it. So all of these people are acting out of line. That's not okay behavior. And this is what we're going to do about it. So the first step is to try communicating with them. As I said, at least try talking to them, make sure it's not a misunderstanding. In the case of the ex, if he was just being lazy and he didn't understand what gluten-free meant, it is hard to switch. So if he doesn't have to be gluten-free, he's only trying to think about his daughter when she's there, then it could just be a laziness issue on his part. Maybe he just doesn't think about it. So if you start with a conversation, maybe it was just a misunderstanding, and then you can keep it from escalating into an actual problem. If they don't respond, so let's say that there's one close family member that's giving you a hard time. If they don't respond to opening communication, then reach out to other family members. This could be extended family. This could be other people that you live with. Family is kind of a loose term. I'm using it to mean the people that you're around the most, the people that you live with, not necessarily related to you. But sometimes you'll find a support person in places you wouldn't expect. So reach out to your other family, to your other community members, whoever is around you the most, and open a conversation with them and see if they can help you either talk to the difficult person in question or help you strategize ways to work around the difficult person. So we need to find a support person that's as close as possible. If no family members respond well, the consensus seems to be that you should cut toxic people out of your life. And there's a very fine line here, because toxic is a label that's really not clearly defined in popular social media, but it gets thrown around a lot and is the reason why a lot of people cut off relationships. But a toxic relationship is something that's actually abusive and detrimental to your health and well-being. So if a person is actively opposing you making this choice for your health, if they are trying to feed you poison, because gluten is poison to you, if they're trying to feed you poison, then that is a toxic behavior and should not be tolerated. If they're just saying snarky comments and being snippy, maybe that's their way of trying to cope with the situation. So again, you need to decide whether they're acting out because they're unhappy and frustrated and scared, or if they're actually being abusive, being toxic. And I would say save that as the last resort. Don't just assume someone's being toxic because you had a disagreement. But sometimes people are. So it is also a legitimate thing to say, for right now, I can't make this choice for myself and deal with this toxic / difficult person in my life at the same time. Those are too many things going on. So when you are dealing with multiple battles on multiple fronts, you have to start with yourself first and then work out from there. So if you're trying to make a change and it's difficult and you're frustrated and unhappy, just what you need to do with yourself, plus you're also having to deal with them and they're making you unhappy, then you need to separate yourself from them so that way you can focus on making it okay with you, so that way your body is healthy, because you can't deal with them when you're sick and tired and frustrated and unhappy. It's not going to go very well. So you need to create a little bit of distance. If that means you stop seeing them as much, you just I don't like avoiding people, but sometimes you have to. If you can say, look, I need to take a break from the relationship for a little while because I need to make this lifestyle change and it's a really big deal for me, so I need you to respect that. Sometimes just saying it out loud makes a difference as well. But you have a responsibility to protect yourself and your health and anyone that's dependent on you. Like my friend's daughter, she has a responsibility to protect her daughter. So if the ex is maliciously giving the daughter gluten, then that is grounds to revoke visitation rights if you need to go like super legal, or you can just say it can be a little more on a personal level and say, look, this is really important. I'm not comfortable with me or my dependent person being around you right now. And that's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard boundary to set, which is why you need other support people in your area. If you can, find them to help you stay strong and set that boundary. If you didn't have a lot of support people around, chances are at least one person in your family or friend group will be supportive of you making good choices for yourself. If no one is, I'm going to suggest you find new friends because friends should support you in wanting to do something good for yourself. So if nobody stepped up to the plate, then see if there's any local groups. Start with asking, if you have a doctor, start with asking your doctor. That way you know that other people are also dealing with the same issue that you are. But you can also do Facebook searches, Google searches, to see if there's any local groups in your area that you can join. Kind of like a club, kind of like a therapy group, whatever works for you, but just so you have other people that are in the same boat as you. If you don't have a local group, which I'm going to say probably most cities don't have a local celiac group, we might be able to change that in the future, but as of right now, if you don't have a local group, then there's a lot of groups on Facebook, and I moderate 3 different ones, so I will link them below. But whatever group you find that you jive with, that you feel like people are also in the same area of life as you, that you're getting good responses, be careful when you are in groups. Sometimes people are mean. Even if it's a support group, they can be mean and rude. So remember that you are responsible for yourself. They don't get a say in your life. If you are making choices and you share it and people are commenting and being judgy, then that's on them. They don't get a say, especially a stranger on the internet. Like, you don't have to listen to them. So if you find good support in support groups online, then that's at least a place to start. And then hopefully we can find a group for you to be in locally, or find other people in those support groups online, find other people that you can have maybe like a virtual local group and meet. I mean, Zoom is now mainstream, so we can use it for that too. And like I said earlier, you can give yourself a break if you need one. If you're trying to deal with too many things at once, people are being difficult, you can't focus on what you need to do for yourself and changing your diet and your lifestyle because you're worried and frustrated and dealing with all of these other people being rude, then give yourself a break from them and create some space and set a boundary and say, I'm not okay with you treating me this way. And it's a very big personal development thing to be able to do that. So a lot of people struggle, but I hereby give you permission. If you need permission from a random person on the internet, I give you permission to set that boundary, to protect yourself and to get healthy, so that way you can then go back and mend and heal those relationships if you decide that those relationships are worth mending and healing. Sometimes it's time to move on. Sometimes you realize in situations like this, when things are a big deal and they're serious, if someone isn't reliable, then maybe it's not a good fit for you in the future as well. But that's a choice that you have to make, and it's a choice that you need to make when you can think straight and you're calm and you're collected and you're centered and balanced. And you can't be all of those things unless your body isn't at war with itself. So the first step is to get you healthy, to remove gluten, to get yourself in some kind of state of balance, even if it's just a little bit of balance at first. So that way then you can deal with difficult people in your life. So I hope that helped. I hope that you found some of this information useful. Please feel free to visit my website where I have more resources, information like this on how to be gluten-free, and a lot more on the emotional and relational aspects as well. So I hope to see you soon.